Dear listeners, I want to say I'm so happy to be here at Radio Horeb. Let us continue to pray for one another. Let us continue to support one another for the progress of the church. We are all aware that there are churches that are suffering. There are churches that need help. There are churches that are growing. There are churches that are new. So let us all support grassroots evangelization wherever it is, whether it is in Africa, in Asia, or even Europe, or any part of the world. My name is Gerald Maman Musa, the Bishop of Katsina. As you have just seen, I'm coming from Nigeria. I was made a bishop last year, December. So December 2024 will be the first year anniversary of my being made a bishop. So the same Katsina diocese was created, newly. So I'm the first bishop of the diocese of Katsina. I became a Christian through my father. My father was a Muslim before he changed to become a Christian. So he was the one who was converted to Christianity, and then later on he married my mother, who was coming from a Catholic family. So when we were born, we were baptized as infants in the Catholic Church. Some of my friends had their reservations. They were not sure. I had some friends who were Christians from other denominations, and some were excited. Some felt that I could choose some other vocation instead of the priesthood. And then I had some who were Muslims who also had that kind of mixed feelings, on whether I should go on with the vocation or not. But of course, not everyone was in support. But very deeply within me, I felt that I was called. Very deeply within me, I felt, there was something that was pulling me into the vocation. Maybe I will say moments. So many moments or better experiences that I've had. The first is the environment in which I lived, which was an environment that was very close to the church, because my father worked in a catechetical training center where catechists were being trained, and it was in a large compound. Our house was just next to the church compound, so that was an influence. Another influence was that of being an altar server. Having served on the altar, I found it I found serving on the altar very attractive. And then the experience of going to a minor seminary, as you know, is like a high school, but we get that training, that prepares one, to make the choice of the vocation to the priesthood. So I found that very helpful. And then also my interaction with major seminarians who were coming for apostolic work, as we call it. My interaction with them, I found them, very good people. I found them to be very knowledgeable people, and there were many things that were attractive about them. So these were some of the things that influenced me to choose this vocation. But as it is, it is a call, ultimately from God. And like Hebrew chapter 5 verse 4 says, no one takes this honor upon himself unless he is chosen by God. So it is a vocation, or it is rather a call from God. Well, the situation of Christians in the country, it all depends on what side of the country you're talking about. We have 6 geopolitical zones, as we call them, and all of them have their different experiences of Christianity. But I would speak more for the Christians in the north and particularly for those in the northwest where I come from. In this part of the north, we're predominantly Muslim area with Christians in the minority, and we have a good relationship with them, especially in the past, but sometimes this relationship is affected by the politicization of religion, and then it's also affected by extremist ideological Islam, that is coming into the country. You may call it political Islam. So what it means is that I'm passionate about interreligious dialogue between Christians and Muslims. And this interreligious dialogue consists of different aspects. One is about the dialogue of life that exists between Christians and Muslims, daily living, interacting in the market, having same public square like schools and even places of work. So dialogue of daily life. I'm also passionate about not only dialogue of life, but also dialogue, what some will call, social dialogue, social or developmental dialogue, whereby we can together concentrate or focus on a project, whether it is an economic development project, whether it's a social project, or whatever it is. So bridge builder, yes, because we cannot not live peacefully together. The more peace we have together, the more peaceful coexistence we have together, the more development comes to us, because there is no development without peace. Well, what gives one encouragement is first the faith. The Christian faith has so much that it gives to us. The Christian faith tells us that no matter how difficult a situation is, there is still light at the end of the tunnel. So the Christian faith gives one hope, and then the Christian faith encourages us to live in peace with our neighbors. So despite the difficulties, despite the challenges, we always remember what Jesus says to us, that if we must be his followers, we must take up our crosses and follow him. From the onset, Jesus has said to us that life as a Christian is not a bed of roses. Personal faith, has an effect in what we do, in what we say to people, and all that. My personal faith, is having its foundation in a prayer life, in a healthy prayer life, which I try to practice in as much as I can, and I encourage other people to do the same, because there is joy in a personal relationship with God, and not only a personal relationship with God, but what I'll call an affectionate relationship with God. Knowing and discovering how much God loves us and how much he has contributed to our lives, how much he blesses us day after day. St. Paul would say that it is in him that we live, move, and have our being. So my personal faith affects the way I preach. My personal faith influences the way I minister the gospel, the way I administer the sacraments, and so many other things. We need God because first, as human beings, we have to know the source of our being. We have to know as a human being, or as human beings, we have to know where we are coming from, where we are and where we are going, which is our final destination as human beings. As human beings, we know that we are not only made of the body, but we also have a spirit. We don't see ourselves as material beings only. We are spiritual beings because we are created by God. In our catechism, which provides the answer for us, for example, the first question in our penny catechism is, who made you? The answer, God made me. And then the second one is, why did God make you? It says to us that God made me to know him, to love him, and to serve him in this world, which tells us about the reason for our existence. It tells us where we are coming from. We are coming from God, and then the purpose of our existence. Because we have to know the purpose, the quiddity of our existence, which is to know God, to love him, to serve him, so as to be happy with him in the life hereafter. Well, Christians in Europe can help in a whole lot of ways. One, to acknowledge the fact that we are united by one faith, one Lord, and one baptism. So we have something in common. And then Christianity is also a religion of solidarity. From the very onset, even in early Christianity, stronger churches were helping weaker churches. Older churches were helping newer churches. In Europe, for example, that has had a very long-standing history of Christianity, has built the churches and have probably more wealth, so to say, than some of the developing countries. There are churches that are in difficult areas. The church in Europe, and particularly the benefactors, who have been helping for years, including aid to the church in need, that has helped so much in pastoral needs of the church, can help in terms of the training of seminarians and catechists. We have had a lot of support, benefactors supporting the training of catechists and seminarians and the religious. They can help in terms of education, and not only the education of children, but also education of adults, because there are adult literacy programs. Those who had not the opportunities of going to school when they were little children. So they have, benefactors in Europe can help in terms of sponsoring some of these programs on adult literacy and education in general. And then, like we are in the media house here, for example, we cannot do without the media today. And Radio Maria is going to all parts of the world on the 9th of December this year. We are commissioning Radio Maria in my province, where I come from. So it's a joyful thing. But again, for the surrounding dioceses, every diocese should have at least a studio where they can produce programs that can reach to as many people as possible, that can serve as resources for evangelization of people. So we can produce programs having a mini studio with just the basic equipment. Then the other way in which we can get support from the older churches in Europe and from wealthier churches around the world is also in the area of reaching out, because reaching out requires mobility. We have catechists who need to move to places, but sometimes are handicapped because they do not have what they can use to move, whether it's a motorcycle, and then sometimes cars for our priests and religious, to reach out as much places as possible. So pastoral needs, we need, help, to help us reach out to as many people as possible, and to also attend to the many pastoral needs that surround us. So these are the areas where the churches in Europe, Christians in Europe, could be of help. The training of seminarians, religious, or generally pastoral agents, help in terms of education, and then help in terms of, strengthening, our media outreach to people, and then help in terms of mobility, and then so many areas that we have. Today also we have people who are displaced as a result of banditry, as a result of violence. Sometimes we have benefactors who help in providing some counseling for those who are suffering from trauma. So these are some of the ways. And then helping displaced people, refugees, to settle down. And then helping also in building churches, because there are so many churches that are very small. The numbers are expanding and the churches are becoming smaller. So our benefactors in Europe, could be of help.